Let's talk to education expert Dr. Kevin Donnelly. I've spoken to Kevin for many, many years on radio. He is an author, an educator, a commentator. He is a straight shooter. He's a senior fellow at the Australian Catholic University and an expert in this field. Nice to see you again, Kevin. G'day.
Always my pleasure.
I look at the case with Mr. Cable, and we're not just going to make it about him, but, you know, the response back from people was that he is a hero for taking on these kids. Not an accused, a hero. And yet he is taken through the system, he's charged, he'll probably never work in the game again, and all for doing probably what their parents should have done.
You're dead right. And I wrote about this a couple of years ago. When you look at discipline or the lack of discipline in the classroom, and you're quite right to mention the OECD research shows we have among the most disruptive and badly behaved students across the OECD. But it's the elephant in the room that politicians ignore. Education departments don't do anything about it. And I've spoken to teachers, and the problem there is that if there's a fight in the classroom or in the school ground, if a teacher interferes and pushes a kid or grabs a kid, the teacher is the one who often gets blamed or is threatened with legal action. And to that extent, some teachers now just stand back, don't get involved.
Let it happen.
And that's what it's come to. It doesn't make sense.
I told a story the other day on radio where there was a friend of mine who was a headmaster for many, many years in the country. He had such success in his country town, which had a lot of underprivileged kids, a lot of Aboriginal kids, that the education department said, we'd like you to take on one of our really tough schools in the city. So he was brought down and put into one on the outskirts of Sydney. You can kind of guess the location. He's there for 2 years and quits. Just it's impossible. It's impossible. He'd had more complaints about his handling of the kids, his dealing with the parents, his dealing with the teachers. He'd had more complaints in that school in 2 years than he had seen in 20 years in the profession. And all the people that were there for him to encourage him to come south and take up this job were nowhere for him when he took up the job and tried to do what they asked him to do, bring some discipline back to the classroom. There's the message.
Yeah, you're dead right again, and it's a very complicated issue. When I went to school many years ago, teachers were authority figures, and the classroom there was a lot of structure, a lot of discipline. There were clear rules about behaviour, what was accepted, what wasn't, and students knew that if they misbehaved, there'd be consequences.